Whoa, look at that. Phone's gonna melt. Furnace is heating up. I'm gonna do a little experimenting today. We got a whole bunch of gold to work with. I'm gonna see if I can melt this gold into a nice little bar by placing it in here without borax. Compare the results and melt a giant bar. So for starters, we got a huge 1 ounce button, some bars of gold that I got from crushed hard rock, and these are all hard rock assay prills. Then we have a whole bunch more of them. Well, the sun just came out and this gold is really shining. So let's take a closer look. This is a bar I was hammering. It's split, but this is from hard rock ore that I crushed and processed. We got a couple little buttons. These are from assays from running our hard rock mine. We got a video of it back here. I'm halfway contemplating to sell this mine, so if anyone's interested, give a holler. Huge 1 ounce button, look at that thing. This thing's just beautiful, but we're gonna do some testing and possibly turn this into a bar. Beautiful slug, massive slug, look at that. A variety of smaller buttons and beads. And here we got our little tiny boogers. These are all from individual assays I've done, black sands, magnetite, hard rock, you name it. These two little farts in this bag, I got it marked. We got 1 grain of gold from a magnetite smelt. So we're gonna be testing with this gold here today. For starters, I think I'm gonna start with this 1/4 ounce tray right here. We're just gonna fill it up to where it looks full. Put a couple more little beads in there. We're gonna heat it and melt it. Got a rainstorm coming. Hopefully we won't get electrocuted. So this here run, we're gonna do the melt with no borax to see if we can get a good clean melt without using any flux. I'm gonna try to get this in real quick before that rain hits us. All right, so we're gonna use the small 1/4 ounce tray. Let's see if we can get a 1/4 ounce out. That's roughly 7.7 some grams. So we're gonna get close to that. That one's close. Let's see if I can hit it with these little buttons here. 4. Nope, we're gonna have to use the bigger slug and a couple of these. Listen to that gold. Man, gotta love that. Boom, boom. All right, so we got this one. 6.1. Now 8. That might be a little too much. Shoot, if I can fit it, I'm gonna do that and one of these. I'm gonna try to get a nice big puffy loaf out of there. Okay, here it is. We're gonna put this guy in here just like that. Get this other button down in the crook. We're gonna load up the furnace and see what happens. All right, furnace is at 1872. It's still warming up. We're gonna load this gold in, let it preheat and melt. All right, that's the pickup point right there. Let's open her up. Woo! That's red hot. Let's load it. Just like that. Close it. Let's let her cook. You can hear those raindrops just vaporizing when they hit the little furnace here. All right, let's take a peek, see if we got it. Just peek in there. Oh, it's melted all right. Wow, look at that. Looks like we had a little bit of gold splatter out. Instead of spilling this gold all over the place, I'm gonna let it cool in there, then we're gonna quench it. Check this out. We still got rain and wind, so we gotta be a little careful. The main bar is solidified. These two smaller ones are still bubbling. Let's see if we can't pick this up. Oh, look at that. And actually those little balls might not be gold. These very well can be flux that came out of the mold here. So let's dump this over, see if the gold comes out. There it is. And we're gonna quench it just to see what happens. It looks nice and shiny like this. Sizzled away. And here's our nice little bar. Let's see how it turned out. All right, look at that. We got a little bit of imperfection on the top surface. I'm guessing that's from the flux. I had some borax in here before and it looks like it got cooked out of the mold voids and bubbled up to the surface, so that is not gold, which is good. Generally speaking, the surface of the gold here is nicer looking than I can get when I pour the bar. But man, look at that, it's pretty darn beautiful. We're gonna do an experiment with a little bit of old jewelry. See how this karat gold melts in here. Again, with no flux, we're testing. Nice and steady. Close door. I got some more shavings to put in there, but we gotta melt some, make room. Once it's melted, I can add a few more. I have to clean the slag off of these two buttons, hammering on them. Wow, wow, wow. Need air protection. Oh yeah, she's spreading. Oh, that's hot. Holy moly. That was blazing hot from all that impact and pressure. Blazing hot. Damn. Ooh. Now this button, see what happened? It cracked and split like that, which tells me that it's probably less pure, has more copper or silver alloyed in here. Whereas this other one, it's still hot, but look at that, we created into a pancake. It's not splitting, cracking, or breaking at all, so this one is much more pure. Yeah, take a look at this. Here's the first one we were hammering on, got really, really hot. It's pretty thin. Gold is extremely malleable, which means it stretch, bends, pounds flat much more than other metals. So look at that, no cracks, nothing in this one. And this one I barely hammered, but look at all these cracks, stress fractures. This one split immediately, whereas that one didn't. All right, this is the questionable karat gold. Let's see if it melted. Not yet. Whew. I'm gonna heat it a little bit longer, and if we're not getting a melt, it pretty much tells us we got something else in there besides gold. Could be iron or some other high melting point metal. Ooh, we got partial meltage, but look at that craziness. Holy cow. Definitely got something weird happening. Whoa, look at that. Holy cow. Holy cow. We just made a mess of our furnace. Look at this freaking disaster. Let's take a look in the furnace. Let's see what we got here. Oh, that's nasty. Look at all that yellow funkin' crud. Let's flip this over. Oh, there's all the pieces. Look at that, we do have a blob of metal. It looks like copper. We'll have to let this cool, take a look at this material much more closely. We got gold and copper. This karat gold was alloyed with copper. This is the first time I've melted or tried melting these bangles, but look at that. Here we got gold that's separated out. And here's a big old blob of half copper, and we got gold on the backside. So man, this stuff really needs to be refined. Take a look at this. Here we got another piece of gold. It's hard to tell, but it looks like we got more copper than gold in this instance. This is pretty darn wild. Was not expecting that at all. Since our first melt was such a success, it really makes me wonder why nobody talks about this method. To fit enough odd-sized gold into the mold spaces. This one on the right, I poured half a dozen maybe bars into it, and we cooked it in the furnace once. This one on the left is brand new. It only costs 10 or 11 bucks. I'll put a link for it below. But you can see once the graphite gets cooked, it gets kind of sooty and carbonized, which I would guess can certainly lower the useful life of that mold. Other times they use these small crucibles. The one on the left is brand new. The one on the right's been in the furnace about 5 times. And the one on the right is getting carbonized as well. So far it seems to be working equally as good as a brand new one. Melting the gold right inside the mold seemed to work pretty darn well. Look at that. That turned out better than my poured one. And with pouring, you gotta use tongs. It's a crucible. You gotta act quick. Be real careful. See, I'm already shaking and get it right down in that one little slot. That can be pretty darn challenging to do that quickly and efficiently. This new method might be my favorite yet. Let's do a little way up, see what we got here. All this gold here is from Hard Rock Ores. This is a little bar from some years ago. I found some ridiculously rich stuff. I'm gonna have to go find more of that. This is from the mine we're gonna be mining next week. Let's see what we're starting with. So we're sitting at 16.6. We probably got 17 and a half or so grams. Now we're gonna load them into the molds, give them a melt. This is the first time trying this mold out, so I kind of want to see how much gold fits in that small coin depression in case I want to make some coins of my own. You know, that'll fit in there. So the gold is sitting right above the lip, but we still have area to fill here. So I think I'm going to put a couple more small pieces in there. So I believe this is a 1/2 ounce cavity. However, this particular mold isn't milled to exacting specs. This one is. I think we'll try to more carefully jam all this gold into here, so we'll melt in this dish and here. One of the most important steps here is to spray the mold with dry film lubricant. I'll link this stuff below as well. Shake it up. Coat the mold evenly. Because it's absorbing so quickly, I'm going to go a little heavy just to make sure that gold doesn't stick and releases. And for this one, we got a nice chunk. It's about 4 grams right there. Put that in there. Wedge some alongside of it. Lay a couple of these bigger ones flat in the bottom. Tuck them in there. Okay, here we got the micro beads. These are from hard rock assays we've done here last summer. You can see we got a couple really tiny ones. So here you can see we have all sizes. That's a rich assay, fairly poor assay, fairly poor assay. These smaller ones, roughly grain in size, came out of black sands and magnetites from placer mining. Put a tiny one in there. Tiny little prill in there. Put another little ball right there. We have these 2 beads left over. I'm just not sure they're gonna fit, so we'll save them for the next round of melting. All right, we're all set to load up the furnace. We're at temp. Once we open the door, it's gonna cool off. We'll be able to preheat the mold without having any explosions. Big old button from last year's dredging. This is hard rock. We just melted a little bit earlier today. Here's our freshly charged molds. There's gonna be our coin right there. Hopefully it won't spill over. You can see it's lumped up, but it's got some space to fill. And here's the roughly 1/2 ounce cavity. All that gold's protruding, but I bet you it's gonna congeal and turn into a nice little loaf. And there's our beads we're saving for later. All right, let's get it cooking. It's the first time I'm lifting this here mold, so I wanna make sure I get the balance point right. Oh man, right there works. Let's go steady hand McGee. There'll be a molten puddle here in just a few. We're at 1802 right now. I set the furnace here at 2010. Last few times I melted gold like this and or in a crucible, that seemed to be the ideal setting. All right, it's time, let's take a peek. Oh yeah, look at that. The gold is all nice and liquid. I'm gonna have to pull that out of there, my phone's gonna melt. All right. Wow, that did something totally different than expected. However, it's gonna work. I need to have a lot more gold in those molds to have them full. Here we go. There it is. We didn't have enough gold in there, so it didn't fill the entire cavity, but we still have a nice bar. Apparently we needed a lot more gold to fill that cavity. Nice bar of gold right there. That came out quite a bit prettier than pouring it, so this method definitely works, so long you have the right amount of gold for the cavity. It worked extremely well. This method seems to be a winner. Got a dry film lubricant again. I'm gonna use this other mold because the holes are a little bit bigger. I'm gonna put this big bar in here, just like that. And then the smaller bead, which is still a nice chunk of gold, fits in right in here, just like so. And that should fill up that cavity very nicely. So we're gonna melt this, nicer and bigger bar. It's melted. Let's open that up. Oh, it's not filling the cavity. Now it's not fully filling the cavity. Maybe this is why typically this is done in a vacuum chamber. So close. Try to pour it back a little bit. Let it cool right there. Stretch it. Oh, there it is. All right, there's our bar. Look at that. All right, let's dump it in the water. Boom. There it is. Look at that. That worked out pretty darn well. No flux. Right here, the medium-sized half-ounce mold, and it should have fully filled in the space, however it didn't. I had to roll it around back and forth to get it to fill and spread out. It actually poured pretty darn well, minus this little imperfection right there. Overall, this bar looks nicer than my hand-poured versions into the same mold. I'll show you guys that right here. This last bar we poured in the half-ounce spot. See what she weighs. 16.9 grams. Put them all together and see what we get. 54.9 grams for 1.7 troy ounces. As you guys can see, this is a very viable process for melting gold, silver, bars into loaf form. It's really difficult to pour gold perfectly into these tiny molds. Woo, that's hot. Perfect loaves, look at that. Way easier and quickly more perfect than pouring them in. No borax, just make sure you coat that mold so the gold releases. This way to melt gold is a heck of a lot easier, safer, and arguably cheaper than pouring gold out of the same furnace into these molds. As a piece of cake. Check out our all new Nugget Club.